Sally Yates is in front of Congress and she's testifying in the Senate about the Russian connections that Mike Flynn has. Now, this is very serious business. He's a former national security advisor, and he lied about talking to the Russian ambassador about lifting the sanctions. I mean, they're talking about the sanctions that the US has on Russia, and if Flynn is talking about those sanctions when he's going to become the national security advisor at that time, that's super serious, and is talking about coercion, and then he lied about it, which then opens him up to blackmail charges, etc. Now, as everybody else is talking about that, Ted Cruz decides, no, I'm gonna do a couple other things. One, I'm gonna grandstand. Two, I'm not gonna talk about Russia at all because I wanna deflect attention from my friend Donald Trump. And most importantly, I'm going to show people what a legal scholar I am. Now, Sally Yates was the Deputy Attorney General under Obama, and for a brief time, the Acting Attorney General under Donald Trump. Obviously, very well versed in the law, but Ted's gonna stump her. Or is he? Oh, this is gonna be awesome. So first of all, he's gonna cite a statute. No one knows what any of the exact statutes are off the top of their head. Of course, you check that before you wrote a brief, etc., right? So he thinks this is a good rhetorical trick. I'll get her with it. Let's find out if he in fact did get her.
Is it correct that the Constitution vests the executive authority in the president?
Yes.
And if an attorney general disagrees with a policy decision of the president, a policy decision that is lawful, does the attorney general have the authority to direct the Department of Justice to defy the president's order?
I don't know whether the Attorney General has the authority to do that or not, but I don't think it would be a good idea, and that's not what I did in this case.
Well, are you familiar with 8 U.S.C. section 1182?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Well, it is the binding statutory authority for the executive order that you refused to implement and that led to your termination. So it certainly is a relevant and not a terribly obscure statute. By the express text of the statute, it says, quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any alien or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. Would you agree that that is broad statutory authorization?
I would, and I am familiar with that, and I'm also familiar with an additional provision of the INA that says, no person shall receive preference or be discriminated against in issuance of a visa because of race, nationality, or place of birth. That, I believe, was promulgated after the statute that you just quoted. And that's been part of the discussion with the courts with respect to the INA, is whether this more specific statute trumps the first one that you just described. But my concern was not an INA concern here. It rather was a constitutional concern, whether or not this the executive order here violated the Constitution, specifically with the Establishment Clause and equal protection and due process.
I hope you followed all that because that was so awesome. He's like, are you familiar with this section of the law? And then he reads it to her. It's like, oh, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, you knucklehead. How about the later provision that says this, which Trump was clearly in violation of? Oh, I wish I'd read that later provision. And she's like, that's the more specific statute. But on top of that, I'll sprinkle in my constitutional reasons, which you hadn't addressed at all. Okay. Ted, you're so embarrassing. I'm gonna show you what happened at the very end in a little bit because you're gonna love the ending of this story. But let's go for round two and see if Ted comes out any better in round two.
There is no doubt the arguments you laid out are arguments that we can expect litigants to bring, partisan litigants who disagree with the policy decision of the president. I would note on January 27th, 2017, the Department of Justice issued an official legal decision, a determination by the Office of Legal Counsel, that the executive order, and I'll quote from the opinion, the proposed order is approved with respect to form and legality. 3 days later, you determined, using your own words, that although OLC had opined on legality, it had not addressed whether it was, quote, wise or just.
And I also, in that same directive, Senator, said that I was not convinced it was lawful. They importantly do not look outside the face of the document. And in this particular instance, particularly where we were talking about a fundamental issue of religious freedom, not the interpretation of some arcane statute, but religious freedom, it was appropriate for us to look at the intent behind the president's actions, and the intent is laid out in his statements.
Final, very brief question. In the over 200 years of the Department of Justice history, are you aware of any instance in which the Department of Justice has formally approved the legality of a policy and 3 days later the Attorney General has directed the department not to follow that policy and to defy that policy?
I'm not, but I'm also not aware of a situation where the Office of Legal Counsel was advised not to tell the Attorney General about it until after it was over.
Thank you, Ms. Yates.
Oops. Say, are you aware of this? Yeah, but how about the part where they didn't tell me about it? And that's also unprecedented. Thank you, Ms. Yates. Oh yeah, did you notice the part where you said it was why it wasn't wise or just? So that seems like an opinion not attached to the law. Did you miss the part where I also said it was unlawful? Whatevs. So someone took a picture right after this embarrassing back and forth with Ted Cruz, where he thought he was going to outwit her, and it didn't prove to be the case. Oh, what happened with Ted Cruz? Let's take a look at that picture. Okay, that's his seat right there. God, he dropped the mic and ran, okay? Didn't drop the mic in the right kind of way. So I know that these politicians, sometimes they like to run right afterwards because they're like, where's the cameras? There's the camera. Oh yeah, did you know? And then once the camera's off, gump, right? But believe me that if he thought he got the better end of it, he would have mugged for the cameras a little longer and been there like. Oh, actually, we do have a picture of where he went afterwards. Let's take a quick look. Oh, you poor son of a bitch. I think we got some video too.
Hi, this is Ted Cruz calling. I was calling to encourage you to come out and vote on Election Day. This election is critical for the direction of our country, and I urge you to come out and support freedom and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Saddest man in America. Our reporter Jordan Chatton broke the Donna Brazil story. He was right, she just apologized for it. Help us get more reporters like that. You're the one responsible for that. Thank you, and let's do more right now at tytnetwork.com/go.